All right, welcome to Life Lessons and Lattes with Lanisha. I'm super excited to kick off this fall series in which for 7 weeks I will be joined by a guest, one who I deeply admire, and we're going to talk about things from my newest book, Maximizing Her, which is over here. It was released earlier this year under my own publishing company, Porter Print and Publishing Co. All right, so without further ado, we're going to jump right in. So for those of you who do not know me, I am Lanisha Porter. Thank you so much for following me. You can always find out more about me on my website, lanishaporter.com. I am 24 years old. I am from the Louisville, Kentucky, and graduated from the historic Louisville Central High School, in which, well, I didn't meet you in high school. I met you in middle school, but
track
we did
team.
go to high school together. So that's a little bit about me, Lanisha. I want to introduce my fabulous guest to you, Miss Erica Nicole Talbot.
Ooh, okay.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Lanisha. I'm so
Absolutely.
excited. I read the book. I have some lessons that I learned and could relate to, so I'm
Okay.
excited to discuss it.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name, as she said, Erica Nicole Talbot, and I am Louisville Central graduate. I am a U of L graduate. I graduated with a BA in sociology. And then also, right now, I'm just working, trying to find my way up in this world. But outside of that, enjoying life, enjoying God, enjoying this melanin.
Amen. So what did you say you studied in college?
I studied sociology.
Sociology. And you know what? It's so funny. We have a running joke, and it's actually 3 of us. I don't know if you remember this from high school.
Okay.
But we called ourselves the Michelle Obamas. So I was number 1, you were number 2.
Where's
and
Jason?
No, so it was Maya. She was number 3.
Oh, Maya, yes.
And it's funny because Michelle Obama actually studied sociology at Princeton.
Well,
And so
hey.
when you said that, they just like it immediately made me think of that inside joke. And we used to walk down the hallway and I would hear like, "Hey, number 1," and I was like, "Oh, it's Erica or Maya," and I'd be like, "Hey, number 2," talking to Erica.
Well, hey.
So in college, what did I study? I studied political science, philosophy, women and gender studies, and I kind of just talked about high school. I didn't talk about college, so thank you for reminding me. Manhattanville College in Purchase, New York is where I studied. So we kind of like went our separate ways for college, and then when we came back to the city, and we just been kind of hitting it off.
A little small. I
A
mean,
little small. It's a small town with a big time feel, you know.
okay.
So, she's
Yes.
like, okay.
Yes,
All
let's
right.
go with it.
So, she said she read the book, and what were your thoughts on it?
So, my thoughts are, at first, like I said, when I first started out reading it, I was like, oh, God. I was like, Lanisha, sis, hold up. I said, oh, my God, she's kind of talking reckless right now. But as I kept reading, like you said in the book, as you said, keep reading. I'm not like this. I learned something. So I kept reading, and I peeped what you were learning.
Yes.
I love how you said that us as women, we're basically all one. We're basically the same. I think my biggest lesson that I got out of it is, although we're the same, we just all learn lessons at different periods in our journal. So we can't throw shade. We can't look down on anyone else. Like, we can only live our life and help out another one, help out a sister whenever we can without being judgmental.
Perfect. And you know what? I think it's important that you say that. Help out another sister without being judgmental. Because I feel like once we get our lessons, we kind of just go up the totem pole and be like, I remember when I was down there, sorry, can't help you. I'm closing the door behind me once I gain my mobility, you know? But slowing it down for those who maybe have not read the book yet, Maximizing Her, Navigating Life After Girlhood. I wrote this book at the age of 23, I wrote this book at the age of 22, published when I was 23. And the idea behind this book was, if you read my first book, you know that I was raised by a single father. And so growing up, the maternal wisdoms were practically not there. And so for me, I grew up trying to pursue that maternity through other women and kind of learn lessons as I just kind of live life. And I remember how frustrating it was not being able to have a reliable source to go to like have my questions answered, or just going through things in girlhood and really feeling like I didn't have proper guidance from a woman's standpoint. And so I said, you know what? I want to have daughters. And not only do I want to have daughters someday in the future, but I want to write a book that will help guide them. And so this book largely focuses on legacy, tradition, womanhood, and life, saying what would be the things that I would tell my own daughter, leading her from girlhood into the entry of womanhood. And so it's 7 chapters talking about that. Now, jumping into the first chapter, which is what we're here to talk about today, it's called You versus Them. You versus Them. And in this book, right, and I want to say this is the first time that I have publicly sat down to dissect the book.
Okay.
So we're going to get into it. You versus Them. My intention was to very blatantly show people the inherent biases that I had growing up against bad girls, what society would say are bad girls.
The fast girls.
The fast girls, the hot and grown girls, the loose girls. And I think, why did I even feel like this moral authority or this, this credibility to be called a good girl? What I feel like that's the label that people kind of threw on me. Like, oh, Lanisha, you're a good girl. Like, oh, Lanisha, you're going to get married as soon as you turn 18, And I remember when all of these things are pushed on you, you kind of do take them on as your identity. Mm-hmm. And subconsciously, you do begin to adapt this divisive mindset, like, well, if I'm a good girl, then it must be me against the bad girls. So in the book, I'm talking about me kind of learning that division, it's not really real. And if you make it real, it really kind of is you are missing out on a very important chance to learn about real womanhood and real sisterhood.
Yes.
And as you see in the book, I was very honest when I said that I had very inherent biases against girls that I deemed as unworthy. Unworthy, not that, oh, they should be disrespected or mistreated, but it's like, why do they get married first? Or they didn't even take the time to be intentional about cultivating good virtue, whereas the good girls over here are.
Yeah.
Why are they not ranked high in terms of like being pursued? So tell me your thoughts about that. Let's unpack that.
I definitely agree. I can relate with being marked as the good girl. Even I feel like as young as elementary school, being marked as the good girl, the church girl. Even my friends joking, you're going to be married, you're going to be the housewife. And that's from as long as I can remember. So I can totally understand as far as being sculpted to live a certain lifestyle and understanding that, okay, there is a division.
Let's slow that down a little bit. Let's talk about what that sculpting looks like in practical ways. Yeah. So like, what did that look like for you growing up?
So church baby right here. Church, and I participated in women's ministry from the get-go. They tell you how to walk, they tell you how to dress, they tell you how to talk, they tell you they teach you how to be a good wife before you're even legally able to be a good wife. Like, you're being molded into this virtuous woman before you're even a woman yourself.
And so much like most girls, was the vow of purity pushed on you before you even understood what a tremendous undertaking that was?
Yes.
Yes, right? So when you're young, you think, well, I can do that. Just wait until I'm married before I have sex, right?
Yes.
It's like a hard red line. You do not get access until you put a ring on it.
Yes.
And it's really easy when you're not dating.
And no one's checking on you.
When no one's checking on you, right? But then what happens when you become of age and then all of your peers are kind of saturated in this culture of Netflix and chill and,
Yeah. I mean, no, that was me. That's what happened to me. You know, this church girl, I'm vowing myself, boy, please, you're not gonna touch this. And so that happens, but then you wake up and you become an adult, and then you meet somebody.
Yeah.
And
if they're persistent,
then everything that you've learned kind of like, okay, well, do I really want to? You start going through that battle within yourself of, do I want to stick with these principles, or do I want to start venturing out?
And that's what this book talks about. It interrogates tradition. So really, I when I entered womanhood, it's like, hold up, these ideals were given to me, but why am I adapting them again? Like, why am I subscribing to this? And you know, the thing that really made me so confused, to my soul, Erica, how do you train up young women to be virtuous, to save themselves for marriage, to be sacred, but yet it is common knowledge that men love sex?
Well,
I was completely confused about it, because I remember going to my dad or just talking to older men, mentors that I trusted, and to them, you know, as startled as I was by it, like, can you believe this guy really wants sex this much? They're like, well, that's kind of a part of their biological makeup.
Boys do what boys do.
Boys do what boys do, but girls are supposed to somehow sustain through those very aggressive attempts, persuasions. And then, I don't know about you, but I kind of took on this guilt where it's like, do I go into marriage to have sex and possibly learn that this person isn't for me? Or do I kind of just forego what I was taught? And I think even if you're raised in the church, there's an idea, there's this very deeply seated kernel that your worth is in your purity.
Yeah.
So once you damage that, you're not as worthy.
And I do believe that some teachings, some people have been raised thinking that. I'm very fortunate to be under spiritual leadership that teach, yeah, you did this, yeah, you did that, but your past can still be your past. But still, for those who may not have that access or that knowledge or support, that even if you slip up or if you participate in this activity, that there is like a second turnaround. Like, you can still have access. But what about those that are scared? They feel like if they do something,
it puts them outside of God's love, or, you know, they've gone too far from redemption.
Yes. What about those? That's a difficult transition or a difficult mental battle for people who struggle with that.
Very difficult. And I think it's such a heavy burden that we put on young girls. And then we kind of send them out into this world without the spiritual warfare, you know, them not understanding the real nature of men. Like, it's no secret, you know, once you enter into woman, like, men love sex.
Yeah.
And a lot of men aren't really willing to wait for marriage to have their first go around at it, no matter how worthy you see
Christian men.
Especially Christian men.
Getting the same teaching as you, and they still...
And, you know, I will be honest and say, I'm going to share a story. I didn't talk about this in the book, but it's something that completely almost obliterated and was a complete sabotage to the way that I thought dating and, you know, the Christian life was going to go. I remember when I was in high school, and there was a youth pastor whose name I will not mention, you know, out of respect for his identity. But I remember hearing him preach one time, and I was like, that's my husband.
I've been there.
That is my husband. He's a young man. He's fine.
He's black.
And I don't have to, he's black. And I don't have to deal with the pressures of being pressured into sex because he gets it. Lanisha. He knows the word.
Lanisha.
Oh, I've outsmarted all these girls. I got me a church man. He gonna marry me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we'll make it do what it do. And then I have a life that's fulfilling to God, pleasing to God. I did it the right way, so I still have my purity, my word, and I wasn't like the other girls. I didn't have to give up any part of myself prematurely. So, I went up to him and I was like, I really loved your sermon today.
Just like that. Just like that.
Just like that.
Okay.
I really loved your sermon today or whatever. So, long story short, we began talking, we began dating. The devil was in the details. When I tell you, bloop, that part. And when I tell you this young man tried to lead me astray, he basically said, God never forbids sex before marriage, and it would be okay to have sex with him. This is a youth pastor. I am young. I am impressionable. The only thing that probably saved me was my father's rearing. I feel like my father gave me very strong personal mechanics to be like, that don't sound right, so I'm not going to do that.
Everybody doesn't need to be in leadership. Okay.
Everybody don't need to be in leadership. But can you believe, what if I had trusted him completely? That was a lesson for me. That was the first idea of where, I became aware, like, oh, maybe you really can't trust all men, even if they are presented to be in positions of leaderships or spiritual guidance.
Yes.
You have a synonymous of experience.
Oh my gosh, Lanisha. Okay. How can I make 6 years 30 seconds? Basically the equivalent. Christian man grew up together, and not to bash him, because I think men have to go through their own journey just like we do. So it's not to bash, but I can relate to, I had a relationship with someone that Christian, grew up with the same principles, and then, you turn 18, you're out of your parents' little bubble, and life happens. The guy, world, what's up? Me, I'm still in that bubble. I'm still being sculpted. I'm still like, I'm not messing with it.
Right.
Long story short, we separate, and guess who gets them? The them girl. The them girl. So ultimately, that's when I went through my mental battle of, dang, I'm doing all this work to make sure I do the right things, to be this godly woman, to be virtuous, and this is what happens with a Christian guy. So that I can relate to that.
I just caught a chill when you said that, because I hope I do not cry. Like, I want this to be authentic, but I don't want to cry on camera.
Cry, girl, but don't cry tomorrow.
But how did you feel realizing that? Because it really it almost, I don't know if it did it for you, but it almost sent you through this identity crisis. Like, I did everything that I was supposed to do.
Yes.
I literally meditated on the Proverbs 31 woman, and you tell me that I still lost to the same girls that everyone told me I was to rise above. How did that make you feel, Erica?
I was dead inside. I was like, God, you tripping. I don't know what you talking about. I'm like, this is a mess. I'm doing all this work. I made a promise to you first, God. I made a promise to myself. This guy made a promise to me. And then this is what happens. And this was not to bash her either. Like I said, everyone has a different journey.
Right.
But it's like, she doesn't live the lifestyle that you said wins a man, or, it was just a complete identity crisis during that time.
It's happened to me too. That's all I can say. I mean, I've been with guys that were literally raised, you are to pursue this type of woman, bring this type of woman home. And then one day you get on Facebook and it's like, huh?
I got on Instagram,
you
girl.
got with who?
Who is this?
Like, you can't bring her to family dinners.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, and this is like, without getting into too much detail, but
right.
It even broke my heart even more, because find out later, pregnancy occurs, they get married, they're in my bubble, I see them quite frequently, and having to live through it and still have a brave face, because other people are looking at you. You're this godly woman. You're supposed to lead the people coming after you. So I'm trying to have a brave face. Meanwhile, in the back of my head, I'm battling, God, you said, but this is what happened.
Yeah.
So do you relate?
I relate talk about being embarrassed on Facebook.
Oh.
I mean, his whole following, my whole following.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then to make matters worse, it's like, I'm supposed to be this champion for women. I'm supposed to always uplift women, see the good in them, bring women together. But for the first time in my life, it was like, I don't feel like this anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
I was there.
And it was completely hard to remain like altruistic, assume the goodness of all women, because it's like, did she know the pain that she was causing me? Just like, and then, I mean, I've been there. I have been there, and it literally changes the color of your world. And I remember talking to people about it, and they would say really insensitive things like, well, it's your fault.
Okay, I didn't have that. I think I had people in my corner saying, keep going.
Well, I think people who don't know any better, people who are oblivious, people who just speak too soon can say things like, you are in charge of your self-esteem, so, you know, that shouldn't have made you look at yourself differently. But people don't realize what kind of shock that can do to someone when you literally believe the world is supposed to operate this way.
Yeah.
Other people that you have confidence in have also affirmed this is the way that the world works. If you are a good girl, the good things will happen to you. You will rank for top candidacy for the men who are worthy. And then the opposite happens. It's a complete sabotage to your ideals. Yes. And then you start looking at yourself differently, and then you start questioning yourself like, oh my God, I subscribe to all of these things that does not make the world the place that I thought it was going to be. And then for someone to come and say, oh, well, that's your fault, your own self-esteem issues. It's hard to debunk what you believe the world used to be, but still be optimistic, still be a godly woman, still lead with faith, because I deeply believe that a faith that cannot be tested cannot be trusted. And it is hard to continue to bring yourself to your knees and pray to God when you're not even sure if his way works
is correct. Yeah.
If the teachings are correct. So I've went through that, and it really challenged my ability to be a champion for all women. But that was good, because little did I know that would be a pivotal moment for me to say, you need to address, because you do have these inherent biases and you're leading women. And what if you're leading a woman who does have shortcomings in what you believe are virtues or worthiness? Are you going to mistreat her because she's not waiting for marriage? Are you going to mistreat her because she got pregnant at a young age? You know, and that actually happened to me. One of my best friends actually got pregnant, and I judged her. Yeah. I judged her when at the most needed time she needed me more than anything. I judged her, and it was just like, you know, the Bible says, me subscribing to Bible literalism, it's like, do not keep company with fools. Is that not what Proverbs tells us? And I'm like, well, it's foolish to get pregnant by the guy you got pregnant by, so I'm not your friend anymore. And you're not supposed to do that as a Christian woman.
I know. I was just like,
you're not supposed to do that.
But you learn. You have to go through these things so that later on you can be like, okay, sis, you was tripping.
And now it's so crazy because, you know, years later she came back and she told me, like, I felt you outgrew me. Like, I just felt like, she actually said, like, she felt like she wasn't worthy to be my friend. And I had to stop and look at, like, I, like, deflated. Like, I made someone feel like that. I made someone feel like that by me wanting to subscribe to these biblical principles and being the good girl. I literally decimated someone else's confidence about themselves. Yeah. And that's not the way to go. Yeah. So I love, you know, now it's, you know, I love that little boy more than anything, but that was a learning lesson for me, right? But let's talk about the them. We've kind of talked about the heartbreak that comes with realizing, you know, the world doesn't always go as you think it will. But let's talk about the them. So the yous are kind of like the girls who do subscribe to that moral standard of doing things the right way, the biblical way, the church way, Proverbs 31 woman. Let's talk about the them. How would you describe the thems of the world?
Really, they just don't know no better. That's the them. They just don't know no better. Just because I feel like even with Christian women, virtuous women, even if we do slip up, we knew better, but it was a slip up, as opposed to the them. They just don't know that they're even doing wrong.
Yeah.
Or considerably wrong. Everyone, I understand, lives a different lifestyle, but when we're talking about being virtuous, they just don't know, or they haven't seen a model.
That's very important. I talk about that in the book too, right? So at the end, you see that, I interrogate the way that I feel about the division between me versus them. And then I say, you know what? Well, I'm sitting here judging them and saying, like, they don't know any better. Truly, they may not know any better. They may not have examples of, like, moral virtue, or they may not even have, like, a showcase, someone showing them, like, this is not the way to do things because it then leads to this. And so I had to then realize my own layer of privilege and advantage that I had, which is I had a dad able to point those things out to me from a very young age. And say, this is why you don't do things with young men, even when they promise it will be done in secrecy, because never will it be done in secrecy. And now at a young age, you've blemished your name because there's no Clorox wipes for your reputation as a young woman. Your sexual encounters or affairs will always have a more adverse effect, for you as a young woman than a young man, because that's just the way society works. It will always leave a taxing assault on your reputation. No matter if you really didn't know any better, no matter if you were innocent, no matter if you were just exploring. That's the way it works. So I had a father since, like, as soon as I got my menstrual cycle, really saying, like, if you plan on having sex, here are the consequences. 2, understand that you're putting your reputation at risk. 3, that's not going to go away overnight. So get with the program. There might be young...
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. He always would tell me, when he was send me prom dress shopping, he was never he wasn't a helicopter parent. Like, don't wear this, don't show too much skin. He was just like, represent my last name well. And I knew that I better have brought home a dress that was somewhat tasteful,
presentable,
So I had to take into account that not everybody has that guidance. So the thems of the world, how I would kind of explain it is, the ones who happily partake in debauchery, they are, the hot girls, the city girls, which I've kind of taken on the title hot girl this summer.
Okay.
So I've just been kind of living within limits. But I would say, they are the ones that just live loosely without thought of consequence. And I definitely think that I'm not sure that we are completely at fault, though, for shaping those type of mindsets, like, oh, it's me versus them, because I talk about this in the book now. In private, things happen in private conversations. Real conversations happen in private. And I remember older women who I automatically assume they know better, they know what they're talking about, they would tell me, do not be like them. So subconsciously, that gave me tacit approval of, okay, there's a right way to be and there's a wrong way to be. So if they're telling me not to do what those girls are doing, that's the wrong way. Therefore, those girls are them and I am me, and I want to err on the side of goodness and what's right. So, to me, that kind of continued to affirm the them girls are not doing it right. And that really happened to me, like, in private conversations, sometimes it was with older women, but sometimes it was with older men. Like, don't be like those girls.
Oh, that's good.
So those are the thems. So eligibility for marriage, let's talk about that. What is the perceived idea that makes you eligible for marriage, or a worthy candidate?
I think ultimately, regardless if you're a you or a them, I think everyone shares the idea, one, to be faithful
to be faithful. Monogamy.
You're going to be faithful to your spouse. I feel like that's number one.
You know what? I would also add to that, Erica. It's crazy. Men get to have experiences, but when it's on the woman's side, it's like, oh, I need your body count to be low. So there's a level of exclusivity that's expected when someone wants to marry you.
Yes. But I guess it's kind of a matter of, it depends on what kind of man you are courting. If you are so lucky, so blessed to find a man who has maybe already gone past his wild days, or maybe you actually found a diamond. If you actually found a diamond in the rough, which there are some, but if you do find that diamond in the rough, they're fine. They should understand that, hey, just as God changed me, just as much as life has evolved me, maybe it happened for this woman as well. So I think it depends on the type of man that you're courting as far as your eligibility for that man.
Yeah, I definitely would have to say, and I think I've learned this like in the study of laws, like equity is important. There is no general rule that applies to everyone, you know. You have to consider the unique circumstances. Mm-hmm. But in general, what pop culture pushes, I definitely think someone that's faithful, someone that's clean, domestically inclined, right? Yes. So she has like, you know, those maternal instincts, those domestic instincts, which everyone should have, but I'm not going to get into it because if it's our house, you need to be cleaning, cooking, doing everything as well.
Our house.
Our home.
Okay. Not the 50s. I work and you work, but that's a different subject.
But, well, you know, I actually dated a guy that said, I'm cool with being a stay-at-home dad. Shoot, if you bringing in that money. And I was like, that made me attracted to him because I was like, I like a man that is not so caught up in this macho man attitude.
I'm cool with that, but we both gonna build the empire.
We're both gonna
whoever I'm with, okay?
Yeah.
So if you're at home, you're gonna work from home, okay?
I love it. At the end of the chapter, I go on to talk about how, you know, I showcase blatantly, this is how I used to think, but then you see my evolution of saying, you know what? I've seen enough of them, and what happened really for me, what humbled me to my core.
Yes, because you get humbled.
Is I saw them girls getting the things that a lot of people told me that, oh, only the good girls can redeem and unlock those things. So I started seeing the thems get married, and I'm like, hold up!
God,
did you forget about me? Because I've been over here waiting patiently, doing everything that you said. You know, I've played nice now, and where are my prizes?
Yeah.
You know? And so I started seeing the thems get married, and I was like, ooh, forget about me?
What's going on?
And, you know, a lot of people are going to look at this and be like, oh, you're 24, you're so young. But when you've, like, subscribed to this mindset since you were, like, 14, 15, you really feel like...
That's your first time being, like, deboed by life. So you just wake up and be like, oh, so what's happening? What's going on? But I think also, years later, you can say that you definitely learned from that situation.
So have you felt that pressure, like... oh, okay, I need to get down the aisle?
I feel like society-wise, maybe, because it's kind of like, okay, you done graduated college, now make them babies. Yeah. Like I said, I'm very fortunate to be under wise teaching, wise spiritual counselors. My parents don't rush me at all. They're all about your life is set for your life. God got what he got for you.
Yeah.
So I would say I don't feel that pressure from my surroundings, but I can definitely understand how people do get that pressure.
Yeah. I really don't say like I feel it. Like I don't necessarily wake up and like meditate like on my wedding. Mm-hmm. But I will say I'm very anxious to meet my husband.
Me too. I got a whole Pinterest tab for when the day comes. So it's not in the front of my mind, but it's in here somewhere.
And I think naturally women, we are expected to like have this primacy for motherhood and like being a wife. But for me, I do want those things because for some reason I feel like that's when my life will finally begin. Like being able to have like those Christmas traditions and like just traditions, you know, having something that belongs to me, I belong to it, and all the sacredness that's imbued with that. Like I do want that. But I really feel like it's so important, and maybe this is where like the biblical teaching comes in, to do it the right way.
Yeah.
The right way. And
God's
I think
timing too.
God's timing too. And I think that for me, maybe that's where I get frustrated sometimes when I look around and say like, well, I don't think they were doing it God's way and they still got it before me. So, and I'm saying that to clarify because, you know, the world we live in, once I upload this, people are probably going to comment like, oh, she's jealous when she sees her friends get married. No, I am not.
I am excited.
I will come to the wedding shower.
I will be in your wedding.
You need me to do anything for you, I got you. But naturally, I do think when you feel like you've been laboring in the shadows, doing things the way that you're supposed to, fasting, praying, it's like, all right, God, when's it going to happen for me?
But I feel like you also get that time in your life where you're like, okay, God, I understand why not. Why not now? Because even me personally, I have like a whole checklist of, okay, that's why, sis. You're not ready, sis. So I think that's also a part of the journey to even becoming a great wife, even becoming a great spouse, part of the family, period. Yeah.
I'm so glad I have friends like you. That is really important. That's very important. So, kind of wrapping this up, the thing that I've learned, what can people take away from this chapter? So, you've seen the very warped way in which I used to think about women and like marriage and what makes a woman qualified and the you versus them. What really settled it for me, what humbled it for me, was when I started seeing that rule, this right way that I had, that's not applicable to every situation. Maybe you need to stop being judgmental and you need to erase and dissolve this idea in your mind that it's you versus them. Y'all in it together, sis, because here's the thing that I truly believe in my heart of heart. We are all inseparably linked by the cord of femininity. We will all have the same experiences, the same heartbreaks, the same lessons, the same fates. And if you're so busy trying to split off into teams of, oh, you're the virtuous woman, or oh, you the ratchet girl, you miss a chance to bond, you miss a chance to learn, you miss a chance to grow internally and interrogate some of the traditions that, you know, are really toxic, but you keep them because they're tradition, you know? So I think for me, that's where I've learned to grow. And that's really even helped me in my friendships because at first, you know, certain friends were afraid to come to talk to me because they're like, she won't understand. Like, she's going to judge me. But now it's like, nah, sis, like, I get it. Like, come talk to me. Matter of fact, here are my scars. Here are my shortcomings. Here's where I have fallen short. And at the end of the day, you know, I can see no matter who you are, it doesn't matter if you're the Michelle Obama or you're the Monica Lewinsky. We all women.
Yes.
And the reason why, more importantly, why it's so important to let go of those mindsets of divisiveness is because the ideas that we perpetuate, we are passing them on to the succeeding generations.
Yeah.
And that will be the standard in which they cultivate their own friendships, in which they shape their own personhoods around. So, you know, if that's one thing that I hope to teach my daughter, God, please let me have daughters. You know, when I have them one day, talk about that later. You know, I really want them to be a girl's girl, like there for any woman. I just think it's important that we we show up for all women.
Yeah.
Even if you do have, I understand people are going to see this video and maybe, their biases won't dissolve overnight or automatically, but to make an intentional effort on at least lessening them.
Mm-hmm. Or if you don't know what to say, or you think you might be offensive, the best teacher is to just live the lifestyle. Sometimes you don't have to talk it. If you walk it, people will learn just off your walk.
Yeah. And what are some ways that we can walk it?
How you treat yourself, how you walk, how you respect yourself. People see how you carry yourself. Relationships, people see how you carry yourself in relationships. When men hit on you, they see how you're reacting to that.
Yeah. And I really, one thing that I really respect about you, Erica, is like you're true to who you are in any environment. So now we're going to get into our fan feature, in which I asked you guys to send in what has been your life lesson, what has been something that has been influential in you learning in life that has kind of molded or shaped you. And I asked you guys to share this with me via social media or through my email, inspire@lanishaporter.info. And so we had someone write us in, so I'm excited about that. The life lesson from Chantel Stubbs of Kentucky was this: show them what you're working with. Always with your mind, never your body. She said her mom taught her that life lesson.
Okay, Mom.
Thank you, Chantel, for sharing that. What are your thoughts on that life lesson?
Absolutely tootly.
Absolutely tootly. I like that. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, I think that's very good to connect with even relationships, dating. You want the man to see your mind, and then if you foresee, it getting stronger, you feel like God saying, "Sis, that's him right there." Then you can say, "This is what else comes with the package." Okay. My mind and more, okay?
Amazon Prime. Okay, so I really like that a lot, and I think that that's powerful. I think that goes with what I said in the book, actually, when I talk about society enforces this idea that to be relevant as a woman, you need to have this crazy sex appeal. You need to be sexy. You need to be promiscuous. But I don't believe that, and I feel like I have tried to rebel against that and saying, well, there's also power in a brand that's centered on kindness, intelligence, empowerment. So I definitely think your mind is also very sexy, especially when you exercise it, you dress it up. And I don't know, do you feel like sometimes girls literally try to leave that off the table as not to intimidate men?
Possibly, just because what you see on IG, you don't see, baddies or the IG models dropping knowledge most of the time. You just see the booty injection picture. And you see all the followers in the comments, and then all of a sudden they got a whitening teeth ad on their page. So you see the money too. And I find that to be true, that women purposefully at times try to not present to be as smart as not to intimidate a guy or whatever, because I have a really good friend who intentionally does not tell people she has her master's as not to intimidate them, or she kind of wants her sex appeal to be at the forefront. Really?
Honestly. Like, for the longest, I forgot that she was in grad school, because I was like, you never talk about it. And she was like, that's intentional. When she goes into interviews, she doesn't tell people she has her master's, and it's like, well, why? And then she told me that her boss, the guy that was kind of mentoring her, told her, as a woman, your brand is your sex appeal. Make it sexy. Save the mind for later. So, but I definitely believe, what Chantel's mom said was right. Show them what you're working with, always with your mind, but with your body. But then again, I also don't mind, adding a little something to it. I think it's good if you have both.
Yes. But still do it in the way that you feel comfortable.
That you feel comfortable. I'm going to do it both ways. But
yes, dude. I mean, even when you're a Christian woman, virtuous woman, dang.
We have dimensions to us.
Wear a flower in your hair or something, sis. Wear a little lipstick. Stop wearing Carmex all the time. Just Yes, you can wear some jewelry, like, you don't have to be in your what's a moo. You don't have to be like that.
I love mine though.
Okay, do you? If that's what you like. Hey, girl.
Yeah. Yes. Speaking of yes, this is my hoodie. It's hoodie season, so if you want your maximizing her or life, tradition, and legacy, if you want your sweater, you can order from LanishaPorter.com and also your mug. Erica, thank you so much for being here with me today. I definitely think we have shown women, even men across the world who will watch this, that we do have a moral obligation to the next generation to be careful about what we're passing down to the women who will use that as their, moral code of how they're going to act, how they're going to treat other women. And I think we could grow exponentially in sisterhood, community, and fellowship when we really do take the time to dissolve this idea that we have between the good girl and the bad girl. Yeah. Any closing thoughts?
Do you? Stop judging the next person. If you feel like they need to make some adjustments, just live out the example.
Be humble.
Live out the example.
Down.
And then
be humble.
Be humble, sis.
Sit down.
Or brother.
I had to learn, and I learned the hard way, y'all.
Yes.
My lesson was embarrassing, bruh.
I mean, I don't think it was embarrassing, but it was hard. It was hard.
It was definitely a sabotage to the idea how I saw the world. It was a gut check.
Yeah. Debo.
But join us next week, next Thursday at 8 p.m. I will be sitting down, joined with another phenomenal guest, Dajane Stewart, and we're taking on chapter 2 of my book, Maximizing Her. This next chapter is called Men Are Flawed. Can't wait to see what that's going to be about. All right, until next time, see you next week. Join us, Life Lessons and Lattes.